Thoughts. This is something that we're gonna work on in this video. Once I assisted my supervisor at the postgrad exam, and after we finished, a student who did well asked me several times if he passed or not. He said that he felt so anxious and thought that he messed up. Good news for this student and for you is that your emotions do not necessarily reflect facts. Anxiety is treated as a negative emotion, and we often think that if we are anxious, we cannot deal with a situation properly. My experience tells me it's not true. At my most difficult written exam, I was so anxious that my whole body was shaking for some time after it. But I did really well and got the highest grade, so it brought me to the top of the list. So you might be very anxious, but still pass an exam successfully. Don't believe your anxiety. The first way to deal with your exam nerves will be to face them. If you try to hide from your anxiety, it will only grow, because worry and anxiety simply signal that we should do something with the problem. Anxiety, if it's a normal one, is not a problem. The problem is your exam. Exam is a trigger. This word is used in cognitive-behavioural therapy, or CBT, for a situation that causes anxiety. Here is a little disclaimer. I'm not a licensed psychotherapist. I will speak about CBT just because it helps me with another type of anxiety, deadlines. And I think that it will work with exams pretty well. So, to deal with your anxiety, you should start by naming the emotion you experience. Use a CBT cycle that consists of the following elements. Emotion. In our case, anxiety, worry, or fear. Physical sensation that comes with emotion. Usually butterflies, increased heart rate, muscle tension. Action. Perhaps you want to get a time machine and skip the day of the exam. And thought. Thoughts. This is something that we're gonna work on in this video. When you mark all these elements, emotion, physical sensation, action, you should also think about what your anxiety, fear, or worry says. Does it say, "I'm a failure"? What kind of thought goes together with your anxiety? What do you fear? You know, just naming what emotion I feel, what physical sensation I have, what I'm gonna do with the situation, or I plan or want to do with the situation. Just naming all this helped me a lot. If I simply say that I feel anxious, it already reduces my stress. Simply acknowledging what I feel in my body when I'm anxious and what I want to do with the situation. I want to fight or I want to flee from the situation. As this example with the time machine, just simply acknowledging all this helps me and calms me down even more. But the most important thing for me is recognizing the catastrophizing thoughts that go together with anxiety and questioning them. If I'm well prepared, will I fail? Ask yourself a question. How realistic your fear of failure is? Are you well prepared and just catastrophizing? Or you really have to study better? I catastrophized a lot before my exams. I assumed that the thought of my probable failure would force me to study better. And it actually worked. But now I see how unhealthy this way to deal with exams is. Perhaps you failed in the past once or twice, and you concluded that it might happen again. Don't generalize your negative experience of the past. This is just one or two cases of your entire life. Try to focus on the positive experiences of passing exams and find out what your strengths are and play on them. Some people also stress before an exam just because they hold high standards about themselves. They think they should have the highest grade for this exam, and their worry increases since they themselves increase the danger of failure. in the race to get a grade a bit lower than usual, but still a good one, is already a failure. If it is about you, you may ask yourself, do you really need the highest grade? Perhaps it's good to be pragmatic here. Why do you need this grade? Are you going for PhD and anxious about admission? But if you really don't need it for your career, I think it would be better just to allow yourself to have lower grades for the sake of your mental health. Put your fear of a failed exam in a perspective. What would happen if you failed? Do you have a backup plan if you fail? How are you going to work on your retakes? How will you cope with the difficult emotions of failure? But if you already failed an exam, try to see it in a positive light. You gained an experience in that particular exam. You will do better at the retake. Try to use these helpful, kind words in case you failed or afraid of doing so. This failure is humiliating and very disappointing, but it's not the end of the world. It's my mistake, but I will study better in future. I might fail, but this failure won't make me a bad person. Repeat them like a mantra in your head, especially when anxiety comes. While working towards your exams, don't forget these simple things like going outside and walking that can reduce stress. You can do some sport as well, but you know it already. And good luck with your exams. See you next time. Hi, 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 hi. Here is a little disclaimer. I'm not a licensed psychotherapist. Serious. The things that I'm going to say about CBT is